It's early afternoon on the 18th of June 2024 on the east side of the closure of Leeson Road. So if you go that way, heading west, you get down into Ventnor. Well, you don't because it's closed. You know what I mean. If you go that way in a roughly easterly direction, you get to Shanklin. And this little car park here by Nansen Hill, which is just up there, remains open. And the old pyramidal orchids are flowering beautifully. So I'm going to walk down this way, down towards Luccombe Village. Let's see where it takes us if you want to come along with me. So the wind has completely dropped off, so I'm not bothering using the external microphone this time. There was a concern down in the bay this morning that the wind might get up as the temperature rose, but it hasn't. So that's really good. Oh, it's bullfinch calling. Off to me right. Chiff chaff. Going chiff chaff. Don't think that bullfinch is going to call again. I had a couple just a minute ago at the Smuggler's Haven tea rooms. Oh, look at this, the brambles in flower. Look at that. Such a great resource for all sorts of pollen and nectar loving creatures. Bramble is just superb. Blackberry flowers. Right, let's go this way. After we've admired a bit more of the blackberry flowers, bramble flowers. Buzzing as ever. There's a speckled wood butterfly dancing around just in front of me, but it's gone off to the right now. The old wood pigeons, when they're cooing in the background, reminds me a bit of Southeast Asia. I lived in Cambodia for 2 dry seasons. I just love it out there. You get lots and lots of different doves and pigeons. Not especially in Cambodia, but certainly, well, I was in Indonesia for a little while as well, and it just evokes that kind of... There it goes in the background. Love that. Get coppersmith barbets doing calls like that in the streets around Phnom Penh in Cambodia. It's just lovely. Hopefully this coming winter I might actually get back to Southeast Asia for a while. Green woodpecker just yaffled at me. Actually, I don't think it is going to be this coming autumn. But certainly autumn 2025. So next year, you never know. Got to be slightly careful when I'm filming going down steps like this, because I don't want to trip. Last thing I want to do is break the camera and break a bone somewhere. Certainly getting to that age where broken limbs can be more tricky. So I think what I'm going to do is try and head up the top this time. Last time I shot the video here, I went through Luccombe Farm but didn't get up as far as the Downs. I'm going to try and do that today. Got a bit more time available. Here's a tree identification test. What's this stuff? I know what it is. And it's only survives as suckers these days. When it gets to a certain height, it gets knocked back again by a certain disease. Give me your answers in the comments section. Right, we already know we can't go that way into the landslip, because the landslip has slipped. Very pleased that this section of the coastal path remains open though, so I can get down into Luccombe Village. And there is a path, so not the one that's immediately to the left, there's a path further down which also goes up to the left. Public right of way, which I think will take me up through Luccombe Farm. That's the path I'm going to be looking for in a minute. But let's just go down into... There's a blackbird chucking away, whatever they do, just to the left. And I can hear magpies, so I assume the old magpies have found the nest. Which is a shame, but I'm not sure there's any change in the population size of blackbirds. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're pretty resilient to predation by jays, as most songbirds are. Well, all songbirds are, until we drive them down to very small population sizes by the things we do in terms of changing their habitat. So we're just coming down towards Luccombe Chine, which used to love going down there, but as far as I know it's been closed for probably 2 decades, is it? Maybe longer. By ground instability, presumably. There used to be a lovely little tea room here, which I don't think it's here anymore. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this used to be a tea room. Correct me if I'm wrong, people. I was quite young when I used to come down here a lot. It's amazing, I rarely leave Ventnor these days when I'm on the island. Somebody mowing over there, so I'm going to switch off the recording in a minute. Yeah, so no longer a tea room. How things change over the decades. This used to be a lot more lively. The little car park that used to be for the tea roomers. Now somebody's private spot. So if I remember rightly, the access to Luccombe Chine used to be down there somewhere. There's still a gate there, but it looks like it's completely closed off. Can't remember exactly where the path used to go down. It's all basically private now. Oh dear. So according to that, this bit of path is closed as well. So I'll walk up here as far as I can. See if I can find that right of way. So if this is true, if you definitely can't get through this way, then you really can't walk between Shankling and Ventnor, even through Luccombe Village. But let's see if the sign is true. I have no reason to doubt it, but we'll soon find out. Is that a blackcap? Yeah, just heard another burst of song when I turned the video off, so it was a blackcap. Now it looks like the path may have dropped just here, or maybe not. Maybe it's just steps up. Nope, the path has dropped. Wow. That really is quite a drop. So I don't condone doing what I've just done, which is scramble down this slope. There used to be a flight of steps here, which is just disintegrated, but it does look like it's dropped, but maybe not, because the slopes are covered by mature vegetation, so it's unclear what's gone on there. Maybe it hasn't dropped, it's just the steps have disintegrated. Might get a clearer idea as we go further down. There's a big crack here. Yes, it certainly has moved. Might have to turn back in a second. I don't think I'm going to get to the footpath I was aiming for that goes up through Luccombe. I think we might be at the end of the line just here. Let's have a look. So clearly I'm not going to get any further. People have been, because there's a path trodden down there, but I'm not going to go any further. I'm not crazy. So this is well east of the main landslip, below the Smuggler's Haven. So I've had to turn back, so I'm heading back down towards Luccombe Chine now, and I have to see if there is a right of way that strikes up to the right now. Otherwise I'm going to have to take the little trackway that goes back up onto Leeson Road and get up onto the downs from that direction. We'll see though. I think there is a path just along here that goes to the right and up there. Right, hopefully I can go up this way. Can't remember where it leads. Ah, there's a coastal path diversion sign there pointing up this way, so this is clearly the way I needed to go. It's interesting, there's a Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust notice. I'm pretty sure this is not their land though. Pretty sure this is National Trust. Fair enough. Why not? really, really warm and humid now. Lovely hedgerow with a field rose and blackthorn, bramble, bit of field maple over there, some hawthorn. The grassland itself is terrible in terms of wildlife value, unfortunately. So it's very lightly grazed now, which is a good start. There's just no wildflowers in it. So what I would be doing down here is spreading green hay and try and get the wildflower population up a bit, and even cultivating some little plots to where green hay is spread. Trouble is, if you just leave it like this, it'll be like this for decades or more, because there's just no richness, or there's no diversity of different species of wildflower to colonise this kind of place. The thick sward of grass is just really virtually stops colonisation by wildflowers. And I think, personally, I think the National Trust, because it owns so much land with so much wildlife potential, I think it has a duty to do a lot better than it actually does on places like this. So if the National Trust could do a bit more, get more wildflowers into this grassland, which would take some effort, but if they could, then this is definitely good red-backed shrike type landscape. The hedgerows are superb. Hedgerows are, yeah, perfect for red-backed shrike. Obviously you shouldn't manage for one species, but I don't think anyone would disagree that red-backed shrike is a really good champion species for all sorts of wildlife that likes open shrubby grassland. So this field is maybe been shut up for hay. There's no cattle in here, so this is better than the, well, it's still species poor. There's buttercups and white clover. It's about all I can see in terms of the flowering plants. The odd meadow brown, some red clover, but there's nothing of the traditional hay meadow species you would want to expect to see in a place like this that's owned by a nature conservation organisation, or what calls itself a nature conservation organisation, i.e. the National Trust. Now, of course, very shortly, hopefully, I'm going to get up onto an area that's owned by the National Trust that is absolutely superb, absolutely rammed full of wildlife, where the management undertaken by the National Trust couldn't be better, as far as I'm concerned. Bullfinch just up here. Obviously no yellowhammers. There was a little patch of arable just up on the slope up there, which the National Trust purchased, and that arable was sustaining a little yellowhammer population over winter. But the National Trust have reverted it to grassland. Might go and have a look at that in a second, because that's a good example of how, you know, what they really need to do down here more, which is, I think they spread green hay. I don't think they seeded it as such. They just spread green hay, which the aim being to inoculate it with wildflower seed, which is much easier to do on arable than it is on thick grassland like this. Because on thick grassland like this, you just don't have the disturbed ground that in more natural circumstances you would have had. So there's very few moles here. I haven't seen a molehill yet. There's no wild boar. There's no oryx. Rabbit populations, obviously not native, but they did act as a good surrogate for things like wild boar and moles in terms of creating some disturbed ground, but the rabbit populations declined. So, you know, it's a lot easier to get those wildflowers established in an arable situation that you're reversing to grassland than it is somewhere like this, which is why just a minute ago I said they might want to plough some little plots, open up, just create some disturbance, and that gives you your little opportunities for wildflowers to germinate. Whereas this kind of thicket of a few species of grass is exactly what wildflowers don't want. Just have a quick look down here. This really does look shrikey. Looks good for redback shrike. Or a visiting woodchat shrike. You've got some very short grassland. You've got a few more wildflowers. I think this is a tipped area, or has been used for something when it was more intensively farmed back in the day. Yeah, it's worth saying that's why there aren't very many wildflowers in the sward here. It's because historically it has been intensively farmed. Well, there's somebody over there, and it sounds like they might have been doing a recording or on their phone or something, so I'm not going to go any further along there. Don't want to disturb them. So let's go up slope, follow the footpath up, which hopefully is going to lead us onto Leeson Road, from where I should be able to get up onto the downs. This green lane is rather lovely. Fantastic structure. So you've got lower shrubs and stinging nettles and bracken emerging from the base of really lovely thick hedgerows. Gotta love red campion. Bit of field rose up there, and lots and lots of elder flowering now, just along here. Oh, some nice relief from the really, really warm sun. This one's a sycamore. You can see that. Just up here is a nice big ash tree. Seems to have largely escaped ash dieback. And below, in the centre of the shot now, is an elder flowering away. So I wonder if I'm ever going to encounter a yellowhammer. The reason I've not encountered a yellowhammer is because there's no arable, and they need that disturbed ground. They need the annual wildflowers. What would be really interesting one of these days is to experiment, or to ask a question: do domestic pigs, which some people put into kind of rewilding type projects as a surrogate for wild boar, do those domestic pigs provide enough disturbance to enable yellowhammers to colonise open shrublands like this. Don't know why that's an interesting question, but not in the context of this particular channel, but it interests me. What's this stuff? Hogweed, is it? Ever popular with hoverflies and that sort of thing. Probably noticed it's so incredibly quiet. I've encountered 2 people so far, and this is the national trail into, you know, in terms of a national right of way that goes around the coast. Actually, it's not a national trail, it's just the King Charles Coastal Walk, I think it's called. So a nationally important walk created in honour of King Charles, and there's barely anybody on this bit. Go to somewhere like Purbeck and that section of the same path will be absolutely packed, I'm quite sure. Right. Wow, it's warm. Should have bought some more sun cream. I put plenty on, but I didn't bring any more with me, which is a mistake, I think. Hopefully I'm not being unnecessarily critical of the National Trust. I'd class it more as friendly suggestions. I've been making similar suggestions for the last decade or so, so it's not news to them here. So what's this little umbella for? Anybody know? It may only be cow parsley. I thought it was a dropwort, but looking at the leaves, I think it's cow parsley. Cow parsley and hogweed, I think. Do let me know in the comments section. So just on the slope up here, I believe, is the National Trust area where they've reverted a arable field to what will become chalk grassland, where I think they spread green haze. So I'm going to try and get onto there and have a quick look. But it does look like the slope just below it is already chalk grassland. It looks relatively, yeah, there's certainly some, can't tell from here what the yellow is, whether it's buttercups or something more interesting. But let's have a look at the Arable reversion site, see how that's looking. Gotta love the oxeye daisies growing on the verge here. This is Leeson Road. Behind me it's going to Shanklin, and ahead of me it's going to Ventnor, or it would be if you could go along there anymore. Walk this way towards Shanklin. This was quite a busy road up until last autumn, early winter. And I hadn't really appreciated quite how close to the road the new cliff face actually is. And you know, at Smuggler's Haven, just stuck the old external microphone on because getting up into the breezy bits. So just over there is that National Trust arable reversion plot I was talking about, and I think along here, I might be wrong, but I think along here there's a gate into it which I can climb over and have a quick look. I'm not going to go right into the field because I don't want to get loads and loads of grass seeds in my socks. So there's another right of way going down that way, down towards Luccombe. I wonder if that one's still passable. Yeah, to Luccombe Village according to the sign. Try that one another day. It's actually Bonchurch Road rather than Leeson Road here. So correct myself there. So I'm going to quickly nip over here. So back in the day I used to rush over here to avoid getting squashed. Not today. Not these days. That's convenient. There's a nice surface trackway going into it. So I'm going to try and climb over here. This is really nice to see. The trust allowing the blackthorns to expand out from the edge. It's going to be a really nice edge. I mean, it's really nice now, but so if I was a national trust, I'd allow pockets of shrubs to develop within the field itself. So like I say, I'm not going to go too far, but already it looks nice. I mean, it's not species rich as you wouldn't expect it to be because it's very young, but there's some knapweed, purple knapweed, or is it purple knapweed or black knapweed? Tell me in the comments section. So very easy species to establish and cracking for bumblebees and butterflies and what have you. So that's really nice. I'm pretty sure this would have come from the green hay that the National Trust, I think, spread on this site as they reverted it from arable. Green woodpecker in the background. There's some sort of drop work type thing over there. Not sure what that is. Get a bit closer, maybe somebody in the comments section can tell me. So it's not wild carrot, it's... Can you see the leaves? You might have to pause and zoom in a bit. Presumably not pignut or anything like that. Can't remember what habitat that grows in. Is it more acidic, pignut? So I'm going to have to order a copy of whatever's the current go-to wildflower identification guide, because I've gone really rusty in terms of my plant identification. Is it rusty or lazy? It's one of the two. This is looking really nice. Well done, National Trust. So the one thing that I would do here, well, probably two things. I would create some brash piles. So if you've got any spare brash, you know, woody vegetation, just create little piles out towards the centre of this, or scattered across this field, and that will entice the rabbits to spread into the middle a bit more and establish little mini warrens, and that will give you a bit more structural diversity in the longer term. At the moment it's perfectly good structurally because it's very young sward, so there's plenty of bare ground within the sward, which is brilliant from a wildflower kind of population increase point of view. Lots of germination niches, lots and lots of ribwort plantains. So I wonder if there's any Glanville fritillaries up here. Certainly are on the chalk downs directly above. They've really spread. So if you want to see Glanville fritillaries on the Isle of Wight, you don't only need, you know, well, the best place is always going to be Wheeler's Bay down in Ventnor, but now they're up on the chalk downs as well, so wherever there's ribwort plantain you might find Glanville fritillary butterflies. Love this knapweed. Not sure which sort, it's either black or common knapweed, purple knapweed. This is lovely. So yeah, I'm a bit obsessed by redback shrike, as you've noticed, and if I was advising a farmer rather than a National Trust, I would definitely encourage them to allow some mounds of shrubs to develop out in this field, So we've got some bramble here, so I think that's probably what the National Trust is aiming to do. But you would speed the process up if you had some burstfoot trefoil over there, which is nice. So you'd speed the process up if you had some brash piles. Because at the moment, well, there's going to be barely any bunnies here, to be honest. I've got to use that word because I shouldn't use the R word, it's bad luck if you're in Kent. This is lovely. So it's very young. I mean, it's only reverted 4 or 5 years ago, maybe. That's some nice. Yeah, the only missing element from a roadback shrike point of view really is a bit of disturbed ground and or sustaining the disturbed ground in the longer term, and some tiny little mounds of shrubs in the field itself. What I kind of hope the National Trust won't do, and looking at it now, doesn't appear they're going to, is tightly graze it. It's much nicer like this. So you want some tightly grazed patches. If you're a redback shrike, if you're lots and lots of different species, they like a mosaic of tightly grazed areas and disturbed ground and more taller, more structurally complex areas like this. It's nice to see the old stuff that I've immediately forgotten the name of. There's some pyramidal orchids. They readily colonise these kind of habitat creation projects. So I'm wondering if there's a gate up the top. Seems to be a Met station up there. But there's a right of way that goes through the other side of this hedge. That's where I want to get up onto the downs. But I think I'm going to have to go back. Don't think there's a gate up the top. So again, it's looks pretty clear that the National Trust is allowing the blackthorn suckers to spread out, which is brilliant. If it becomes thick enough, or wide and thick enough, you might even get turtle doves settling. But again, they do need the arable very close, because the turtle doves only eat seeds. They don't eat insects at all. So they feed their broods on seeds, and those seeds tend to be annual wildflower seeds rather than perennials. So you do need disturbed ground, otherwise you won't have any wildflower or any annual broadleaf wildflower seed, and therefore you won't have any turtle doves. Okay, so it's a Southern Water something or other reservoir, maybe down there, who knows. Might be a covered reservoir, I seem to remember from the OS map. So it does appear to be a gap up the top, so I'm going to try and get up onto the downs by just carry on walking up here, see what happens. This is very sad to see, the old ash trees that mark the old track. Public right of way, byway, they've all got ash dieback, so they're gradually dying off. So just along here, the National Trust has actually created some brash piles with ash logs and branches. Can't see any rabbits. It's one of the drawbacks of creating brash piles is if there's no rabbits to colonise, then it doesn't have quite as much potential as you would hope. But there's wild rose that's colonised. There's field rose down there, so it's developing that kind of colonisation kind of nuclei, so presumably a thrush of some sort has pooped in here as it sat on the dead branches, and you've got field rose colonised as a result. Presumably that's where the field roses come from. Let's see if there's any up here. There's another nice brash pole just up the top, which I'll have a quick look at. It's really, really warm, and it's not really, really warm, if that makes any sense at all. So it is warm, but it's actually not that warm. Doesn't make any sense, does it? There's another one. Is there any shrubby stuff in this one yet? No, it doesn't look like it. But this is where the brambles are going to emerge from. Provides a really good kind of protective barrier from grazers, from the cattle that presumably will come up here at some point. Oh, there's some bramble. So it's beginning to happen. So yeah, any blackbirds that are feeding in the hedge or feeding down along this bit of shorter grass might fly up onto that and have a poop, which they so often do when they're disturbed. And the poop may contain bramble hips or wild rose hips. And hence they provide really good little colonisation niches for mounds of shrubs, which is what redback shrike need. This would be great for reptiles as well, presumably grass snakes, adders, common lizard. Lovely teasel stem coming up here. That'll soon have a flower on it. Skylark's just come up from the summit of this Arable reversion site, singing. Marvellous. White throat over there in the edge of the hedge, the scrubby edge. On a cracking view, looking kind of east now. There's a Culver Cliff. Almost back at Nansen Hill now. Love these young oaks coming up on this slope down towards Luccombe Farm. There's very few native oaks in the undercliff, so to see these ones coming up is really nice. Some really nice disturbed ground here where the National Trust scraped off some kind of thatch and topsoil and gorse, I think, gorse thicket to reveal bare ground again, and the old sheep sorrel is really colonised. It's the red stuff. Hold on, the light isn't very good, but the red stuff there is sheep sorrel, which is the food plant of small copper butterfly. So this disturbed ground is really, really valuable in a habitat like this. We're up on the heathy top now, the chalk heath, up on top of the chalk downs. So because it's got this flint kind of cap to the chalk, conditions up here are acidic in sharp contrast to the chalk just below, just on the lower slopes. So you get a totally different plant community, much more acid grassland, heathland type community just up here, which is what makes Ventnor Downs so stunning for wildlife. And thankfully the National Trust owns it and manages it really, really well. And that management includes creating bare ground like this for species like sheep sorrel and a small copper butterfly. So got some way to go, but just wanted to say, if you've not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Press a like button and read the description that comes along with the video. There's some links to my website and buy me a coffee page and that kind of stuff if you wish to support the channel. But yeah, let's walk this way down to Nansen Hill. So nice that the wind has held off today. Just going to drop down into Nansen Hill and go back down onto Ventnor Beach to see what it's like down there. Could do with a slightly more refreshing breeze, but this is still nice. Nice to encounter a herd of wild aurochs browsing away at a fallen hawthorn and ivy clump. Of course, if they were aurochs, they'd be twice as high, twice as tall, and don't know if they'd be that aggressive particularly. Probably about to be charged by the one with horns. It's only little though, so just flap about. If you ever get charged by cattle like these, just flap your arms around and they'll run off. If they don't sue me, because they may not, but they always do with me. Nice chiff chaff off to my left. Chiff chaff, chiff chaff. It's Culver Cliff between the... Oh, hang on, it's over there. Can't really see it. Just dropping down to Nansen Hill and back to Lisa Road in a minute. Just down on Nansen Hill now. Wonder, can I still get through that way? Let's see. Whitethroat singing there. And the bramble may have blocked the path down here, but shall I bother? No, let's go down the slope. Might be a bit easier. The old yellow rattle is close to seeding now. Don't think any of it's quite seeding yet, but it will be soon. At which point I'll be collecting some seed to distribute around a hay meadow creation project down in Ventnor Bay. So you need to collect yellow rattle really, really fresh and sow the seeds immediately. It's parasitic on grasses, so it will germinate and parasitise some grass and then flower next summer. It's great stuff if you're trying to create meadows, hay meadows, because it does keep the grasses in check, and that allows the wildflowers to get a toehold. The grasses, or some of the grasses, tend to be more, not aggressive, but more kind of successful, I suppose, more boisterous than some of the wildflowers. And if you use a parasitic species which knocks back the rigour a bit of the grasses, hay rattle being the one, then the wildflowers get more of a toehold in the sward, which is what you want really. You don't want a sward that's just grass if you're into wildlife. Do love Nansen Hill. This is not National Trust, and the management isn't as good as it needs to be, really. If it was me, I would just open it up as one big grazing unit and let the National Trust livestock cross this area as well. But for some reason, I don't think they collaborate like that, the National Trust and Gift to Nature, which is the people that manage, or don't really manage, this site. Nice whitethroat singing. Common whitethroat, so we get 3 sylvias in this neck of the woods. Well, we get 4 actually. Whitethroat, lesser whitethroat, Dartford warbler and blackcap. Don't really have, sorry, did I say garden warbler? I'll do that again. Whitethroat, lesser whitethroat, Dartford warbler and blackcap. Nice little blue butterfly there. Blackcaps are obviously incredibly common, they're the most common one now, by far. Whitethroats are the second most common, then Dartford warbler, then lesser whitethroat. Unfortunately, garden warbler is basically absent as far as I can tell from the undercliff as a breeding species now. Sylvia boring used to be much more common. It's one of those species that has really done poorly in contrast to blackcap, which seems to be everywhere. Let's go along this way. That's rather lovely. So, God, my butterfly. Gonna have to remind me, somebody's gonna have to remind me what that is. Is it a manky old Galanfield fritillary? No. Somebody in the comments section tell me what that thing was, that butterfly, because I can't remember. But it was a bit worn and manky. Along the edge of Leeson Road now, which is just off to my left. So future videos, I might try and get down to Shanklin, have a walk down there. It's not easy to get down at the moment because I basically have a very, very long walk, which I don't have much energy for at the moment, or I drive all the way around to Shanklin, which isn't easy. So given all the road closures, it's a bit of a pain. So better off going west towards Blackgang and the Needles and that kind of part of the island, but might try and do Shanklin and Sandown at some point. So I hope you're enjoying this video about Ventnor and the Undercliff. If so, then don't forget there are 2 books I've written. One, Birdwatching Around Ventnor, creatively named, and the second one is Wildlife Watching Around Ventnor. Just short books about the local area, but the subject of this video, available on Amazon. I'll put a link below to this video, and you can also order it from the library, and it's available in all major bookshops, both of these little booklets, and in a few shops along the Esplanade, like the Longshoremen's Museum and Lady Scarlett's Tea Room as well. But yeah, I'll put a link to the description if you want a slightly deeper dive into the Isle of Wight Undercliff, and these 2 little booklets might be of interest to you. Just go onto Amazon otherwise and just search for Steve Jones and Ventnor and you should find them.